You guys remember the Dreamcast? It was a console released by Sega and it had some pretty great games on it, but sadly due to the PlayStation 2's awesome games and hardware capabilities, the Dreamcast was indeed a console full of dreams. Even though the console did not do so well, it did give us a few games, one of them being part of the Blue Hedgehog himself, since Mario was basically jumping backwards, long jumping in 3D and on the N64, it was time for Sonic to do the same, but in a more spin dash fashion. Introducing Sonic Adventure for the Sega Dreamcast. Sonic Adventure allows you to play as 6 separate characters: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, E102 Gamma, and Big the Cat. Each character has their own set of stages and their own story that soon has characters interacting with each other. Sonic's story is more so the same as classic Sonic games. He needs to stop Eggman while having his best friend Tails helps him out. Meanwhile, in Tails' story, he more so is trying to do a little bit of the same thing, but he has more of a confidence adventure in himself during his time of stopping Eggman by himself in the final part of his story. Knuckles' story has him focusing on finding the pieces of the Master Emerald as it broke at the start of his journey. Amy helps out a young bird find its family as she tries to avoid an escape from a robot named Zero. E102 Gamma's story focuses on him following Eggman orders until meeting with Amy changes his direction to help out his E-Series brethren, while also reuniting with his actual family. While Big is a special guy, and he's just here to get his Froggy back. All 6 of the characters soon interact with one another and soon join together to defeat the final boss, Chaos. Chaos is a being who was created from an instance that happened 300 years ago. Throughout the course of the adventure, all 6 characters get a vision of the past, which shows ye old Angel Island where the Echidna tribe were still alive. A young Echidna named Takal befriended these little creatures known as Chow. Her father, Pakamak, enforced an attack on these little guys, and this sadly caused one of the Chow to become mutated by the Emeralds, and proceeded to not only attack the Echidnas, but to use the Chaos Emeralds to turn into a monstrous beast, wiping them all out. In the last ditch of effort, Takal sealed Chaos and herself inside the Master Emerald, kickstarting the events of Sonic Adventure. In the finale of the final story, Sonic ends up meeting with Takal for real for the first time, and she wants to end up sealing Perfect Chaos again, but Sonic ends up explaining how is that going to work, and all that's going to do is just seal him with more anger and sadness forever. Thanks to the cheers and the people giving positive energy, the Chaos Emeralds allowed Sonic to transform into Super Sonic, and using the positive energy, he managed to quell Chaos's heart. With the anger no longer in his heart, Chaos is able to rest with both his friends, the Chow and Takal, ending the Sonic's crew main adventure. Now, even though we're now in a 3D plane, we need to end up talking about how these characters transfer over from the classics to modern. Overall, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles still play the same. Sonic still has his spin dash and still needs rings to survive. He has his item boxes like rings, lives, invincibility, normal shield, and electric shield, no fire or bubble shield, rip to the homies, and his new ability, but will be a staple for most of the modern games, his homing attack. Since the creators don't want us careening off of the stages in 3D, they decide to end up implementing the homing attack, allowing us to pinpoint enemies as to how we want to hit them. Tails' gameplay still has a focus on flying. He retains his flight from Sonic 3 and still has the same flight patterns that he usually always do. If left behind, he will end up spawning right in front of Sonic. If you use a second controller, you can have them play as Tails and have them sort of help you out with certain bosses or just certain things in general. Tails' gameplay is racing Sonic or Eggman to the end of the stage. He has a new ability called the Tailspin. Yes, I'm going to call it that unless you have a better name to call this. That is what I'm going to call it. Knuckles' gameplay is just like the classic days. He can glide, he can climb, and now he can dig once he ends up obtaining the shovel claws. Both Knuckles and Sonic gets a power-up that allows them to charge their action ability and release it to attack a nearby enemy. When fighting Chaos 6, it does double the damage. Knuckles' gameplay mainly just focuses on hot and cold. All of his stages basically has him looking for the shards of the Master Emerald, and you have to end up looking at the radar down at the bottom that will blink, and if it blinks red, that means you're definitely close to the Emerald. Or if it's pink, I'm not entirely sure. Usually I'm kind of interchanging between two of the colors. But the changes of the color kind of ends up rapidly getting increasingly faster as you're getting closer to the Emerald. Compared to Sonic and Tails, where their stages are a little bit more straightforward, Knuckles has the capabilities of exploring the stages that he gets to go in. Now it's time for our newcomers. Let's start with Amy Rose. Not really new as she appeared in Sonic CD, but this is her first time being playable. Amy uses her hammer called the PikaView hammer, which can become bigger when used. This allows Amy to not only get some height, but also increases her speed a little. Traveling with Amy can be rough after playing with the Sonic Hero characters. She does not have that many levels, but majority of her stages is fending off Zero and reaching the balloon at the end of the stage. E102 Gamma stages focus on keeping the time high as possible, as the time does not go up, but in fact it actually goes down. Your goal is to make combos as you lock on to all the targets that you are able to, and you end up usually having bosses at the very end, especially in the second half of his adventure where he basically will just fight nothing but bosses in all the stages. He does get a power-up that allows him to float down or descend down, which ends up helping when you're trying to make precise platforming. Now, Big the Cat is a little bit different compared to the other 5 characters, and I truly mean that. Sonic Team made Big the Cat because they wanted players to take a break from all the action stages. Big stages focus on fishing. Yes, you heard me right, it focuses on fishing. During Big's story, you will be fishing for his best friend Froggy. The 4 stages you explore have enemies, which is kind of funny to me, but they just let you chill and relax, and you can just, you can just fish. They don't even bug you. It's kind of nice. The goal is to let Froggy bite the line and proceed to pull him in. But don't pull too hard. If you've reached to the top, you will actually break the line and lose a life. I think one of the most interesting things I like about the extra missions in Big Story is that it requires you to actually find bigger fishes before actually finding Froggy. And what's more so interesting is that you can find upgrades within the stages that you're playing in, such as Ice Cap. You can find an upgrade there. You can also end up finding another upgrade in another stage, and it's just kind of interesting how much they put into most of Biggs' stages, except for the first one. Twinkle Park doesn't really have much going on, but I do like how Emerald Coast looks vastly different compared to Sonic's Emerald Coast and E102 Gamma's Emerald Coast. And then you have the Hot Shelter compared to Amy, who kind of ends up exploring a little bit more. Big, however, only kind of explores just one center piece of it, but that centerpiece is actually very interesting to look at. But on June 18, 2003, Sonic Team re-released Sonic Adventure as Sonic Adventure DX. And this is the definitive version of Sonic Adventure, and this version kind of adds in new textures, which some fans are not really a fan of, and they make all the characters plastic for some reason. I do not know why they did this, but the focus of Sonic Adventure DX is actually its mission mode. So the mission mode in Sonic Adventure is obviously a new thing that was mainly only for the DX version. It ends up allowing you to go back into the Adventure Hub, so that way you can end up finding these random little ticket ID things that end up giving you a mission. Some of them are ranged from going back into previous levels to end up tackling the mission itself, and sometimes they can also be within the hub world itself as well. Every single character has their very own set of missions, and you can end up checking it by actually looking at the mission results as to which character has which. It's very easy to be able to tell which character has a mission in said place. as you can kind of end up seeing like the little icon color, like red is for Knuckles, pink is for Amy, gray is for Gamma, and so on and so forth. Each and every single character has to do these missions, so that way you can end up unlocking more games in the Game Gear selection and the minigame part of Sonic Adventure's menu. Pretty interesting, and overall, I never completed it. In all honesty, never really had a reason for it. You do have to complete this if you also want Metal Sonic as well. Also, during the recording of me actually doing this, I forgot that the Better DX mod actually allows you to turn to Supersonic. So I was kind of thrown for a loop when I end up jumping and doing my traditional standard standing around all cool like. And once I got 50 rings, I transformed into Supersonic. This was a very interesting feature, and yeah, it was kind of cool. Don't even know if this was an actual thing that you can do in the original game of the DX version. I highly doubt it. If there was, I never unlocked it, so it didn't really matter to me. All I know is that it's pretty cool to end up utilizing Supersonic within the game, and yeah, that's pretty much it. The other thing I can end up talking about, since mission mode is, there's not really much to talk about, except I guess one more thing I can talk about. Hey, they made a Sonic X reference. I mean, you guys like Sonic X? That's a very good anime in the Japanese version. The 4Kids version I can't really stand, and I cannot actually watch, in all honesty. Anyways, let's actually talk about the final feature that's not really a DX exclusive, but it kind of feels like it considering the fact I only played on the DX version and not in the original version. And that is the Chow Garden. The Chow Garden, not only sporting a very good-ass song in itself, but also ends up being the place where, you know, you kind of know Neopets or Tamagotchi or Tamagotchi that the Nintendo Direct likes to call it, but it's essentially a place where you're taking care of the Chow. Yes, even though these little critters were only existed in 3,000 years ago, apparently they can be things that you can actually take care of. A lot of people in the Sonic community really love these dudes. Hell, I wouldn't even be surprised if there are streamers out there that actually made actual content fully dedicated to the Chow Garden alone, and probably has never actually touched the Sonic portion of the game. Wouldn't really be surprised, unless you're playing Sonic Adventure 2, which you have no choice. Now, Sonic Adventure 1's Chow Garden is a little bit different from Sonic Adventure 2's. For instance, Sonic Adventure 1 has you collecting the animals to be able to end up giving power boosts to different types of stats to your Chow. When your Chow is first born, it basically has 0 stats. But you can end up upgrading its swim, fly, run, power, and stamina by either giving them fruits or by giving them the animals that you can collect throughout the stages for each and every single character. What I used to do back in the DX days was when I actually looked up a game facts information of getting a Sonic Chow, it basically said that you need to get a bunch of kangaroos. So I always went back to Speed Highway and end up collecting the assortment of kangaroos and give it to the Chow, so that way it can end up turning into a Sonic Chow. This process took a little bit because the thing about collecting the animals is that they're RNG. You're not really guaranteed to get the kangaroos, and even then you might accidentally get the bird, because the bird kind of are treated like the flickies of the game, where they will follow Sonic and they will not stop following Sonic unless he outruns them. So I always go through Speed Highway since they kind of has a little bit more enemies. You can actually go to Twinkle Park as well, but I kind of find that level to be a little bit more weird to end up finding enemies. So going through Speed Highway is just a little bit faster. Kinda. The RNG is kind of not the best, so trying to get assortment of 10 kangaroos is almost impossible. There are 3 parts of Chow Garden that you can visit. I always usually visit the Station Square one since that's actually closer to Speed Highway, but you can actually find the Mystic Ruins one via minecart, and you can end up finding the Eggman one by actually spelling out Eggman in Eggman's egg carrier ship. These 2 other locations are cool. They got water, they got music, and that's it. The music doesn't really change. It's the same song each and every single time, and if you find these locations, you can just basically just use the warp pad to just send you back to the previous ones that you've already found. The only reason why you will find these locations is to technically just take the eggs that you can find in the 3 locations. In Station Square, you can find the Gold Child egg, which is actually inside a shop. For the Silver Child egg, you can find it in Mystic's Ruins. It's actually near the area where you fought Chaos 4. For the Onyx Child, you can actually find it in the jail cell, which you'll end up actually seeing in one of the cutscenes for Gamma, or if you're playing as Amy, you'll also find it there. The only way to get this Chow, however, you do need to play as either Big, Amy, or Gamma to be able to enter this area, so you can actually hit the switch to be able to end up getting the Chow egg in the first place. Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails cannot get this, so it is what it is. Anyways, the best thing about the Chows is that you need to use them and raise them so that way they can be able to do some races, and you need them to win these races so you can end up getting emblems. Yes, this is also required as well. Look, everything that you do in this game is required. Mission mode, Chow racing, all that stuff. So you think you're trying to avoid any of this stuff? You can't. If you want to 100% the game, you gotta do the Chow Garden. Even though, I will say this, the Chow Garden is universal save. What I mean is that if you already started it for one character already, and you basically play as another character, you don't really have to worry too much because the Chow is a universal save. Think of it as a cloud saving where it's automatically saved for every single character, so it's never really much of a reset point. So if you want to play as Sonic to be able to go ahead and get that sweet Sonic Chow, then you can. If you want to play as Tails because you like Tails, you can do that. Except I will end up saying that trying to play as Tails and collecting animals could be a little bit difficult. I will end up saying I think Big and Tails are probably the 2 worst characters to kind of end up getting the Chows upgraded, because Tails' stages are more racing while Big stages is more fishing. So I don't know. Your mileage may vary on that. Amy, Knuckles, Sonic and Gamma all have a much better way of doing any of this. Now, I can't talk about Sonic Adventure 2's Chow Garden yet because I'm not talking about Sonic Adventure 2 at the moment, but I will end up saying just this real quick, is that Sonic Adventure 2's Chow Garden is much better than Sonic Adventure 1's, mainly due to one factor, which is otherwise known as the Chaos Drives. I'll go into more detail with that when I get to Sonic Adventure 2. Right now, we're talking about 1. Now, let's actually finish off 1 with a bang, shall we? Sonic Adventure DX, or Sonic Adventure in general, has always been a very interesting game for me to end up playing when I was growing up back then with the classic days, where seeing Sonic for the very first time, growing as a character who can finally end up talking and is no longer muted, can basically be more, he's still like the same exact cocky attitude, speeding all through the times, making fun of Eggman whenever he can, and all that other stuff. It's like he hasn't changed. It's just the difference is that he kind of has a more expressive face. Like, not to say that the classics didn't have an expressive face. It's just that usually whenever you're seeing classic Sonic's sprite, he always just looks so mad. And then when he's looking at you trying to say hurry up, he's still pissed off at you. Like, damn, stop being mad at me. When we go into the 3D era of Sonic, you can definitely see that his expression and his emotions are a lot different and appeal to a lot of people. But I got nothing else to really say about Sonic Adventure at the moment because, well, at first I was going to do an entirety of a whole retrospective video, but then, you know what, and then I finally get kicked off and decided to end up doing it myself. And I'm really glad that I did. Sonic Adventure still holds a place in my heart, and hopefully I can feel that way when I get to Sonic Adventure 2, which is otherwise known as a lot of people's favorites for reasons. I mean, maybe it's Shadow, maybe it's Rouge the Bat, maybe it's because you get to finally play as Eggman. I don't really know. And we'll find out when I get to it. I've been CodePika, and I'll see you guys in the next electrifying video. Catch you guys next time. Laters.